Welcome. We got a show versus business special edition today. I know we don't normally come on live and do a Monday episode. We're still going to be here Wednesday for our Wednesday show versus business update. But we got a quick one here because we need to fit Andor in this discussion somewhere before things go too far. We're going to be talking about where Andor has come, where it's going. We know we're not done with the series, but we want to do this before. And it's going to be an interesting thing. We'll definitely pick up on it later. Not sure if we'll do a whole review or not, but we felt it was time to do a little bit of a halfway point kind of thing. We're going to have Theo on in a little bit, and we're going to do our thing. If you have any questions, comments, make sure you're posting those up and let us know. And if you're hearing this after the live, be sure to let us know what you think is going to happen in the next couple weeks as this thing rounds out. It's only a 12 episode series for Disney Plus, but we're going to go ahead and jump in at episode 9, spoilers on, where we catch up with the whole Andor story. Now, this has been an interesting development of a Star Wars show. It's not what we traditionally expected from a Star Wars show. It's not going in the direction a lot of people were expecting, but that's the whole point. People are trying something new with Star Wars, and this traditionally hasn't gone well when you really try to do something too new. And there are a variety of reasons for that. Do I feel like getting into that now? Yeah, I suppose I'll get into it now. Basically, you have this thing, big franchise called Star Wars. It's doing its thing for 40 something years, and George Lucas sells it off to Disney. He's long in the game, and he says, you know what, I want to make this thing. I want it to continue. I want it to grow, and I can only do so much from where I am. And part of him was probably tired of handling all the minutia, but he still wanted to be involved and have a say in it. And his name's still on the masthead, Lucasfilm. So he kept on. He kept his promise to the fans that he was going to still work with it. Sold it to Disney in the hopes that it would build the business, and then Disney did things that Lucasfilm wasn't going to do without them. So now we have this new Disney era. Prequels caused a lot of contention in the fan base. Not the prequels, the sequels caused a lot of contention in the fan base. And then now we're seeing what they're doing with the Disney Plus shows. And aside from The Mandalorian, a lot of it hasn't been as well received as that Star Wars gold that people were expecting when a lot of money was coming in to back the Star Wars projects. So now we come to Andor. Andor is the series that people weren't sure of what to expect. They've got this writer on there, Tony Gilroy, who has admittedly said he wasn't a fan of Star Wars. Now, not sure if this is a good choice or a bad choice just yet, but he came out with this new series called Andor, based around Cassian Andor. And if you haven't seen Rogue One, then he may be a little unfamiliar to you, but he was the one of the main stars of Rogue One, and that was the prequel to A New Hope, Episode 4. So this is a prequel series to the prequel to Episode 4. People liked Rogue One, had a different tone to it. It was kind of contentious in its development, I don't want to say broken, but it was kind of shaky in how it got to film in the first place. There were a series of rewrites. People weren't sure if it was Star Wars enough. If you watch Rogue One, you'll notice that it plays a definitely different tone with the previous Star Wars movies. It didn't have the opening crawl at all. I'm not sure why they made that choice, but it's not like a Star Wars proper film. So, but it is. I don't know what you think of Andor so far, but with this Rogue One, they wanted to make something a little different, and they did. They succeeded in doing that. It was definitely removed from a lot of what we think of Star Wars, but it still had a lot of Star Wars qualities in it. So it was pushing that boundaries. Andor took that a step further and started pushing Star Wars even further away from what we think Star Wars should be. Now, a lot of fans will tell you that this is what you do to grow a franchise, or this is what you need to grow. And maybe that's true. Some people don't like the anime versions of Star Wars. Some people don't like the kid versions of Star Wars, but those have always been around. Um, there are a lot of discussions about what happened in the sequel trilogy with The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and The Rise of Skywalker. A lot of people have a lot to say about that, but there's really no argument that those movies didn't play, those movies weren't constructed with the same care that the previous Star Wars movies had. And when I say care, I mean they had the money behind them. They had big names behind them, but I don't think there was as much care to the Star Wars lore, the Star Wars story. And that's just kind of factual. Even Kathleen Kennedy mentioned that, hey, we were trying to get these things out quickly. Disney put a mandate in for, what was it? They wanted to do the film a year thing. And that's part of where you got Solo and Rogue One from, where you would do a Star Wars proper movie, and then you would do kind of a side story every alternating year. So one year you'd have like episode 10 or a new Star Wars saga, and then the next year you'd have like Solo or Rogue One or some other story. And that's how that was going to develop. That didn't seem to be working out well, and then we ended up with a pause on that whole plan, and then a whole push on Disney Plus. And I'm really not sure where Star Wars would be without The Mandalorian, because, geez, out of all their shows, The Mandalorian, Visions, you've got the cartoon Rebels, Bad Batch. I'm missing something here. Book of Boba Fett. Out of all of those and all of that put towards building the Star Wars thing up again, it was singularly The Mandalorian. But there's this concept now that I should bring up called Lean In TV. We talk about it a lot on Show versus Business, which you should go check out. It's our podcast where we talk about the intersection of the show side of things and the business side of things, and we talk about how they work together, how they fight against each other, and it's just always been very interesting to us, so we talk about it. But as I was saying, the coming together of what was I saying? This show, Andor in particular, it comes at a time when we're doing this lean in thing of television where it's like we want people to lean in and actually carefully consider what's happening and consume. This is the HBO model where you don't just kind of play it passively and not think about it. If you miss 2 episodes, you're totally lost. That's what HBO does. They're lean in. You have to actually think about what's going on and really watch and consider. On the other hand, you have more of the Netflix model, which is a lot more throwaway. They allow you to fast forward through your shows. You can play at like 1 1/4 speed or 1.5 speed, I believe, are the current options now. But that's something, unconscionable to a lot of people. And they also allow you to binge all of their shows on Netflix. Whereas something with Andor, they want you to take the slow drip. They want you to take your time. They want you to discuss it, go through it. It's more carefully constructed filmmaking. Does everybody dig that? I'm not so sure. But this is what Andor is trying. A really dedicated show. And it's 12 episodes. So first of all, you have the lean in thing. I'm not sure any Star Wars has ever really been lean in, where you watch, where you carefully consider all the moments and follow it through and just envelop yourself in all of the things that are happening. It's traditionally been very, hey, this happened, that guy went over there, oh, they're in a spaceship now, and it's just bounced back and forth. That's where it's traditionally been. Andor is bringing in a series of ideas that are more lean in and careful And it was just really interesting to me as I started to hit episode 9. So I definitely wanted to talk to Theo about this. As I said, this is going to be a quick one. We're just going to get in and do it and make sure this thing gets discussed properly. So that's the background to what we've been discussing. That is the from, and this is where we are now with Andor. I really want to know your thoughts, so make sure you comment on this or hit us up. And what's going on,
Hey man,
my man?
usually we do Wednesdays, now we're doing Mondays. So
Oh, quick
show,
recap.
show versus business Mondays.
Mondays, baby. I get it. Yeah.
What's up, man? Show versus business. We back in effect, y'all. Ready for
What's
y'all.
what's happening, man?
Hey man, I'm ready to do it.
Hey, so when you were talking about Andor, you really didn't. You started into it, and I said I wanted to kind of wait because the whole weekly watching was a little difficult for me. I was like, you know what? I like the weekly thing. It makes it a slow drip, but I can't watch it on my own time. So that was kind of getting to me, and I decided to delay for a bit. But then I heard people start talking, and that was getting to me. I was like, oh man, people are talking. I'm out of the conversation, so I can't like do my watch one a day thing if there's going to be this much conversation going on. So I had to jump in Mr. Benja style and catch up right quick. Yeah, man. So what hit you? Let me get your perceptions on this show right quick. I gave the background, where the show came from, how we got here. I want to leave some speculations about it, but I basically gave all the background on the show, how it's definitely more lean in HBO Max model, HBO model, not Max, but
hmm
tell us your thoughts of it because you were like, "Dog, this is hot. You got to watch it." What made this for you?
Well, it's it's not the kiddies version of Star Wars, right? It's a little bit
Mm,
grown up. I think every version of Star Wars you've seen has been kind of kiddie version, from the animated series Clone Wars to, but actual movies have been a little too cutesy by much, right? But this is like hardcore, man. I mean, you knew. I think I told you when I first saw the first episode. I mean, he's literally in a strip club, basically.
yeah.
The first scene, he
Oh, yeah.
like,
There
oh,
are spoilers here, by the way, everybody. Just I didn't say that before, but we're spoiling. Go ahead.
yeah, yeah. The first scene, first episode, he's up in the strip club. I was like, oh, this is not your daddy's Star Wars, right? I don't remember Luke,
Yeah, yeah,
bring some credits over to Mazda easily, but
yeah,
so I think yeah, so that was it. And, Andor, is a little bit more of an anti-hero, and so that first scene kind of set the tone of what you're going to get. But I did feel like it was going to be unique and different when it set that tone, and then the slow pacing of it at the beginning. So it wasn't until it started kicking into when they did the heist, right? The money heist, and that's
yeah,
when I was like, okay, let's go. But you can
yeah,
see it
yeah.
come. But you can see it coming though. It was like, okay, they're doing a lot of groundwork. They're building that tree with the deep roots first, so you understand who Andor is. You understand where what their empire is at this moment.
Hmm.
Understand where the rebellion. They don't even call it the rebellion yet, right? Is at this moment. And so now you're just like, okay, I'm in. So yeah, so I think that's kind of what I knew, and then just the pedigree. Tony Gilroy, he wrote Born Identity, so it's going to be some deep, cuts on spycraft and things like that. So
Yeah,
so yeah, it's almost like the first adult. I mean, Mandalorian is kind of still for the kids, let's be honest, but
yeah.
this is like a
Mhm.
first adult version of Star Wars. And hey, man, like I was telling you, this is another path that Star Wars can go down. So this is going to be interesting.
Now, when you say another path, what do you mean by that? Like, there's, your adult series of Star Wars shows and your kiddie series. Is that what you're saying? That rift can exist?
Well, like, yeah, well, absolutely. We had talked about this. Dave Filoni has pretty much put his stamp on the mythology of Star Wars, right? Let's be honest, right? He was handpicked by George Lucas to say, hey, this is where it could look like. He created Clone Wars. Mandalorian's built on a lot of Clone Wars stuff.
Yeah.
Everything that's come out, even the it's kind of based on Dave Filoni's vision of what the Jedi are, the underworld,
Yeah.
all this other stuff. But this is the first one that doesn't even, it doesn't traffic in any of that, right? And so it's like, I don't think, spoiler, we're doing spoilers here. Saul Guerrero, he does show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a little one off, but I think this is one of those things that is really kind of independent of all that. So I think this is a different kind of path because we wonder where Star Wars can go if you don't feature the Skywalkers, Anakin or Luke, right? So where can Star Wars go? Dave Filoni has a path, and this is a different path. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, different path. Now, I'm trying to think. Is there Star Wars without, there's the shadow of, the main trilogy through all of Star Wars so far. I don't really know. I mean, Star Wars Visions may have jumped and gone outside a little bit, but that's really odd and exploratory kind of show telling. But you're definitely right. This whole story idea is not so much on Jedi. I have we heard any? No, there's no lightsaber. I haven't heard a lightsaber that sound in the entire show, and that's good to me. But what it decides to draw on was the question mark for me. It decides to draw on the corporate and political intrigue. Now, I want you to know, I was the person in episode 1
you were,
and episode 2 who was like, oh man, this political action is kind of juicy, and the person sitting next to me is just like, who cares about the Senate? Boo, And I was like, no, that's kind of interesting. I like this. So I thought that stuff was interesting. And when I started seeing them get into it, I think around episode 3 or 4, I started realizing, oh wow, this is getting into more of that corporate side. And I thought they were going to drop this by episode. Yeah, it was episode 4 because the first 3, I think, were that kind of pilot drop that they just want to set everything. And then I was like, okay, they're really getting into the corporate speak. They're really getting into the nuts and bolts of the political stuff with Mon Mothma. And here's where it started to get to me because I really liked it. Then I started pulling back and I was like, oh wait, I'm not sure about this show anymore. I'm not sure where I stand now because they went hard in the paint in the direction they're going.
Yeah.
And are you rocking with like all of this? Because it's heavier than I thought you were. It's heavier than I thought. And I didn't know if I don't know.
Nah, I'm there for it. I mean, let's be honest. The Empire is space Nazis, right? I mean, and so it's just like they're just these guys that are just very authoritarian. They don't let nothing slip by them, and just now they're just showing you how it affects regular people if your name is not Luke Skywalker, right? And so that's when you're kind of like, oh wow, the Empire is really bad, right? And so I think this is something that's really kind of interesting. And then B Dot, hey, welcome, man. The manifesto, you're right, brother. That's it, man. That dude was like, he was about that life, man. He was like, man, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go after the Empire. We got to be ready to die for it. And having a manifesto now, and just having a philosophy of why you do this, and it gives you a real reason of why these people are rebelling. You're right. It's very dark. I'm there for it, man. And then there's like they kind of show like what's it like if you're just a regular guy just trying to live your life.
Yeah.
Using Andor as that, and they show different moments when he was just living his life. He got pulled in, then he was in it, then he tried to get out, and he still got in it. So it's just like, I'm just walking, man. Why are you walking so close?
yeah, that was good. No, I think it really as slow and as droll as it may seem to a lot of people, because as I said, I was jumping on Twitter, jumping through some of the YouTube comments, going through Facebook, seeing what people were saying. And it's like it's like fine food, right?
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
if you're used to McDonald's all the time, or you're used
That's
to,
a good analogy.
you think fine dining is Chipotle. You stepped up now, right? Because you're eating at Chipotle. It's like, just calm down. Let me take you out to a real restaurant. You're going to sit down. You're actually going to wait because they're going to cook it fresh. And that's what I had to do with this show. And as I said, I'm not sure about it because, and we'll get to it in half a second. I'm not sure about this show totally, but it did one thing that I'd never seen before, never had experience before in a Star Wars show. I actually watched an episode and sat and kind of looked to the side, and then I had to watch it again. I've never done that before because I was like, wait a minute,
Oh
it was
yes, you have. Oh yes, you
with the
have.
Star Wars, not for
Oh,
this.
okay, Star Wars. Okay, yeah.
No, no, not for this. I mean, no. Star Wars, I'm generally kind of like, boom, let's go. I think as I said, with the prequels, I may have gone back and like said, well, wait, who was that in the Senate chamber? And once again, I just kind of went back and cherry picked some things. But with Andor, I actually went back and rewatched, and I was watching some of the corporate political gamesmanship going on between the Empire characters as they were setting up. Watching, dude, I've never had to watch facial expressions and little ticks, here and there, as a way of communicating through Star Wars.
Mm-hmm,
So it's like
mm-hmm.
when I'm watching the show, I can't really do anything else. Back to that whole lean in thing, and I like it, but it's one of those character shows, right? And is it too much?
Mm. I don't. The analogy you gave was awesome because you're right. That's exactly what it is. This is like fine dining, man. It's like we're not used to it. You're right because it's a little slow and prodding, and unfortunately, it came out at a time where you had Hot D, you had the Ring of Power,
Got hot
got
D.
Hot D, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. You had Rings of Power. They were battling out. So it was just these other things popping, and it was like Andor kind of snuck in there, right? And it's just
Yeah,
like, so you're like, what's this about? But man, I was watching it and I was like, man, this is really good. I mean, just the way they, kind of set the story up. I mean, you kind of see where stuff is going, but then you get immersed into the characters, right? Even the small characters, like that, and the reason why they're doing things, and it becomes more interesting. And then you kind of get that general sense of why people want to rebel and what the risk is now, as opposed to
yeah,
in Star Wars. I don't think we ever got that. It was just more like an adventure romp, right? Oh yeah, we're
yeah,
gonna fight the Empire, right? But now you see why, and the actress that played Mon Mothma in the New Hope, right? I think she
yeah.
tried to portray that in that one scene where she had many Bantas died trying to get this information or something
Right,
like
right.
that. And
Yeah,
but that was it. That's the only little thing you got, right? Until we
yeah,
saw
yeah,
Rogue One. But now this is deep dive into like that oppressiveness of what the Empire means and how bad it is, right, for everybody, right, and the stakes at hand. So yeah, this is a really it's like you said, it's like a nice steak with a nice little Cabernet,
yeah.
while you just sit there
Well,
swilling, you're like, I'm just gonna sit back and just enjoy this meal, man. And they got like what
no,
I think they're like doing 20 episodes. It's crazy. So
12.
12 this season. Okay,
Yeah,
and then next season I think they're gonna do some more. So, but yeah,
yeah,
they get into it.
yeah. You got to do your swirl, your sniff,
Look at
sit
it,
back.
see
Yeah,
if it drips down. Put your nose all in it. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
That's good TV.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so the only reason I was concerned though is, and we'll get to some of the scenes, the exact scenes. We can talk about it in particular. One of the things that jumped out at me was that, like, hey, wait a minute. We know where Rogue One. We know what happens in Rogue One and how we get there. I wonder, and because this has personally turned me off in a couple of these character based shows, was where they just set up all these characters and then nothing really happens.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the intent of the series or not, but at episode 9, I'm like, okay, how does this wrap? How does this pull in? They've slowly been adding in stuff like, as you said, Saw Gerrera showed up in episode 8 or 9. I think we had 4 or 5, not definite, but pointed mentions of Palpatine's actions in other shows, in other lore. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they're referencing when Palpatine did this. Oh, they're referencing, when the Emperor showed up. Oh, they're referencing these hard moments in Star Wars, but they're not directly doing it. And I'm kind of wondering, it's like, okay, are they building up to some big thing happening, or not? I don't know. So that kind of concerns me, just because of me and the way I want to see this. But
So what? So you're saying that the world building is not? It does. It seems like it's building to nothing. Is that what you? That's your concern for the most part.
right, it's like it's is it a long fuse with no bang at the end? It's just like,
Mm.
there you go, long fuse, and you're like,
Pew.
oh, that was it. No, I mean, that was cool, but I didn't know if there was something coming. And not that they prepared us for anything big happening, which is good on their part, because that'd be a letdown. But I would hope that at the end of Andor, when people say, "Why should I watch this?" It's like, oh, because it does this. And
Yeah.
this was a complaint I had with Kenobi as well, where if you pulled Kenobi out of the series, out of all of the shows, then you're not missing anything. There's
Mm.
nothing missed. If you say, hey, you should watch Rogue One, it's like, why? Well, it really gives you a sense of, why they were looking for the plans, why all that happened. It's like, okay. If you replay Kenobi, it's like, well, you know, uh, Kenobi and Vader had a relationship. It's like, yeah, we already
I
knew that.
know.
There was
Yeah.
nothing, it doesn't.
Well, it doesn't add anything to it, right? I mean, what
Right.
was the purpose of the Kenobi show? And I think that's where everybody was kind of like, this is a letdown, you know? With
Mm-hmm.
this, I think there is a purpose for this show, and it really is to kind of show you the oppressiveness. It really adds more color. I mean, now, will it add more plot? Will it add more world building? That's to be
Mm-hmm.
determined. But I do believe it adds more color to what you're watching in the other shows, right?
Right.
And other movies, because now you understand the stakes at hand. I mean, it was more, it was more kind of esoteric, right? Kind of like, I don't want to get too deep on this, but like, we have an election here in the U.S. People are
Mm-hmm.
saying we got to fight for democracy, right? But it's, how do you vote? You understand what you're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
but it's like that's such an esoteric thought until it affects you, right? Then you're like, oh crap, I
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
vote right. And so I think this is what this is doing, kind of adding more color to everything else we're watching, because we already know what's going to happen to Andor, right?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert,
Yeah.
what
As
happens in
no,
Rogue
as
One.
yeah, as
But
B dot points out here, it builds to Rogue One being the bang, which is fine. And Skinny Beats over here says it adds to the story arc, but gives us a deeper rendering of the world of Star Wars. Once again, those are two fine things. It's just not what I look for in a story. I need something. I'm personally usually looking for something that says, with this, I have learned this, or I understand this in a completely different way, or there's a new wrinkle in it somehow.
how
Um,
do you know you won't? I mean, that's the thing. We don't know. It's not over yet. What if this is a seeds to the First Order that there's, showing you how that kind of created after the Empire is defeated? Or maybe, it's just a lot of different things that can happen,
mhm.
out of this. Because, we know what's going to happen to Andor. We know Saw Gerrera, but outside of that, all these characters are new, right? and
Right.
and they're introducing so many things like that. I can't remember the alien race that they showed in that torture scene. I've never heard that. I was like, amazing, just how they
Wait,
told that story.
what scene?
I can't remember the young lady's name. I need to write all their names down. But I guess his friend, his girlfriend that they had to torture to get information
Hmm.
for where Andor was located. They put that the torturer guy. He mentioned to her that there was a song that this alien race that they eradicated sang as they were
Oh,
dying,
right.
and I was like, wow, who is that? It's just like, and
Yeah.
it's like he brought this lore and he said, and this song is especially troubling because I think they're children or something like that. And he put it on our ears, and then the actress, she just sold it with her eyes, how painful it was. But I think, that kind of tells me is just like, t- I'm okay with that, not knowing that because I like the color. And
Mm-hmm.
if there's enough color in there and there's enough care in the stories, man, you can create all kinds of other fuses that go out from this because we don't know what happens to these characters or what they do after this. And it's good to kind of get what's it, Star Wars, we're like 50,000 feet in the air, right? We're fighting Darth Vader, right? Darth
Yeah.
Vader's after us, but
Yeah.
now we're down here. Darth Vader know who the hell we are, right?
Right. Yeah.
He probably steps on us by
Yeah.
accident. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So I think I do have a favorite, one of my favorite scenes, and I think that being so down to earth or down to whatever planet you're on, feeling, I think that really came through for me when they heard like the TIE fighter noise in the background. And someone was
Yes.
like, it's coming. No, it's not coming. It's coming this way. And there was that quick little banter of, don't worry about it. No, we should worry about it. And then they all hid. And then it zoomed through the valley. And, we see so many TIE fighters that we don't really think about the fact that, yes, this is, a large spacecraft with all this, with all these armaments on it and everything. So when they brought it down to that level, I was kind of like, okay, that's quality right there. Just that
Oh yeah.
minutiae of their
Well, and then
situation.
and it's not like it doesn't have some comedy. The scene with the bureaucrat and his mother. I mean, drinking that weird cereal. I mean, it's just a
Yeah,
little. They sprinkle a little stuff in there and where his story could go, right? And
yeah.
so
Okay.
yeah, I think there's a lot of different things going on.
Is it a little? What do you think about how they're making it more regular as opposed to weird? Because Star Wars is usually weird and unique, and I've been actually taking notes on how um, pedestrian, how Earth-like they've made the Star Wars universe. And you know what I'm talking about because when they broke out the blue Chinese takeout noodles, and they had the blue Captain Crunch cereal to go along with your blue milk. Um, they just kept on, and there's a whole series of these I have written down somewhere.
Yeah, we should write that down, put that out there, because yeah, you're right. I mean, the strip club, of course, is one of them. I mean, let's see, just working in a jewelry store. I mean, the guy's working in a jewelry store, right? I mean, with a fake wig. So it's
Yeah.
just like
Oh
she's a
yeah. Like
senator, the senator party, having the ex-boyfriend show up, and the husband's a little jealous, but the ex-boyfriend's actually helping her, see the rebellion. So it's,
right, right.
it's just like a lot of stuff. So in there, the sister's involved too. I mean, so they're just giving you all the beats that you're familiar with, but in a Star Wars setting where you're not getting. Matter of fact, I can't recall. Have we seen any weird aliens yet? I don't think we have.
There was one in there was one that cracked me up. The guy who the way he spoke when Andor
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a muscle guy. Yeah, the muscle.
when they were no, not the muscle. Okay, that's three then. I'm thinking there was the muscle, but in that same city, the guy was talking to the other person through the window, and there was a guy in the background. He was arguing with him, saying, "No, no, it's like this." And the guy who's the alien who he was arguing with just had the funniest. And I was cracking the hell up. I don't know what he was saying,
I
but it
know.
had
I
me
know.
dying. And there was like one person in the one or two people in the party. It's like in the senator's party with Mon
Oh,
Mothma,
okay.
the dinner
Yeah,
party or
I
whatever.
do remember that. I do remember that. I mean, Star Wars gonna have, some weird aliens, some weird food. Remember, I just obviously the blue milk, and we also remember Ray, eating that water bread.
Yeah.
so so yeah, it's Star Wars, man. You're gonna have some of that weirdness.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely thought it was. I definitely thought it was a little too pedestrian, and now I've got to find the list here because I actually took the time to make a whole list. All right. Uh, they're the communicators aren't like communicators. They're a lot more like telephones now. Like, oh, oh, phone's ringing, and I was like,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
There's that. There was the cereal. They actually said expressway, when they were driving their little cars around, and
Mm.
the space car looked a lot more like a space car, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like it was something from the 50s where we know
Yeah.
Lucas got a lot of his inspiration from
George
in
Jetson. Yeah.
when he did what was that other movie he did, the 50s movie he did
Oh yeah, yeah,
with all the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
cars.
yeah. American Graffiti. Yeah.
American Graffiti, yes, exactly. So yeah, when they said expressway and they had the person driving up in like a blue Tucker or something, you know, you're like, what is this? The blue ramen, the they use shave and a haircut, the dot 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 dot, and the only reason I'm pointing it out is because as deep as I wanted to get into this story, I'm leaning in, I'm watching, and all of a sudden someone knocks on the door with,
Yeah.
I don't know, interesting choices though, interesting choices.
Yeah, man. Star Wars, you know, they trying to keep it very, pedestrian to your point. But I mean, look, man, this is good stuff. I mean, I'm kind of curious of where it kind of up. I mean, we kind of know where it looks like we're getting. We had the heist.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of that? I mean, that wasn't pedestrian. That view of everything that we saw, with the what was it called?
The eye,
The eye, man.
yeah.
They hyped it up, and that was like, oh wow, this
It
is
it delivered.
better.
It
It was
delivered.
better than they thought. I thought it was
Yeah.
gonna be. Matter of fact, that was the one I watched again. I had to watch it again on the big screen. I was like, okay, let me take it off this thing and let me watch this thing and how it goes. So
No,
that was awesome.
that was beautiful. In fact, as far as the meal analogy goes, that's when they bring out the pan with the flaming, you know, and everybody in the restaurant kind of like looks away like, ooh,
Yeah, they put the little lighter on it and just flames up, for the dessert. You're like, oh yeah.
oh,
So I think we're gonna get another one with the upcoming. See, it's sort of predictable, but not really, right? We knew they were going to do a heist. Yes, the cinematography was amazing for that. The eye
mhm.
actually be dot, but I think we're gonna have another one with the prison break. I mean, I think that's gonna be another big.
Yeah,
Oh man, this is awesome. So I mean,
yeah.
I'm not spoiling anything. We haven't seen anything, but that's kind of where it's leaning toward, and so I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, so I think what I'm liking about it, because I don't want to seem like I'm down on it now. I got into it for a reason. I really liked it. Um, it's not too slow for me. It's just that I'm wondering where the plot is actually leading or anything. That's all I'm curious about. It could still work out well, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really liking the cinematographic deep dives that they're doing, and the film setups and playouts that they're doing are really interesting. If you watch, there's a couple episodes when Andor was running away and he was like scared for his life or whatever. There's a guy in the background that inexplicably is standing on like a 1 foot riser, and he jumps off and hits the ground and then just kind of sulks his shoulders. And I was like, what the hell was that? Right?
Mm.
Episode later, or maybe 2 episodes later, we see the guy standing on the ledge in the prison about to jump onto the floor. He never actually jumps, but my mind was like, holy crap, they actually put that in the background as kind of this, if you're really watching, you'll catch this moment. Stuff like that, that's just littered throughout the show, like it's really intense, is beautiful to me. Like, and I don't believe I actually caught that one. I was like, whoa, that was that weird guy in the background who jumped onto the ground for no apparent reason. Now they're replaying it as this visual of like, hey, this guy's jumping to his death kind of thing, even though it's only
Mm.
a foot to the ground.
Hmm. Hmm.
Really, really bizarre. I hadn't seen anything like that before, especially out of a Star Wars.
Yeah, it's yeah. They're getting to that film category, right? Of making this
Yeah.
more into the. So yeah, man. So high level, I think we're both in it. Maybe we'll reevaluate at the end. I promise everyone will have all their names, all the character names. I have it all in front of me, so we can say all the character names, getting ready to go. Because
Yeah.
I know Star Wars is serious about that. But yeah, I mean, I think we're both enjoying it. So man, I'm excited to see where it
I
goes. And
I didn't think you'd follow liked all this politics.
oh, come on, man. I mean, I'm a politics guy. I mean, it's just Star Wars politics seems so basic and boring and but if you because I don't think they really thought it through, right? But now that I think they're thinking through like the politics of how this all would work, how would you build a rebellion? Now I think that's what makes it interesting. So I'm down for it.
All right, all right. Yeah, politics and corporate gamesmanship, that's got me in there. I'm like, all right, I want to see where this goes. Prison Break is definitely interesting. I like the characters there. Interesting stuff. So, as I said, hey, thanks for doing this one, man. I just wanted to jump in and catch back up because everybody's talking noise now. Now I know what they're talking about.
Show versus business Mondays. We used to do this on Wednesdays, guys, but man, we had to special one for Andor. So
Yeah,
yeah, man. Yeah, go check us out, everyone, wherever you listen to podcasts. Look, we do these typically on Wednesdays. We have a podcast we do every week. We did one on Halloween recently. We did one breakdown on Black Adam. What happened
Black
with the new
Adam.
movie? Yeah, Black Adam. Shoot, man, we gotta think. Oh, man, Wakanda forever. So I got my tickets Thursday. I might even get to see it Wednesday. Holla holla.
Ooh, oh,
So yeah, so maybe we'll do a deep dive on that when that comes out. So yeah, man, this is what we do. We talk about show that gets people excited, but really the business side. I know where is the direction of the business side. A lot of interesting things. A lot of maybe we'll do a podcast on this. A lot of earnings announcements. I don't know if you saw those, Mr.
yeah,
Benja, for all the big companies. Basically, people losing money right now. So you go see some more cuts. Zaslav is cutting things. CW is done with superhero shows. So we'll talk more about that, and that's the business side of where we think entertainment is going based on the capital,
yeah.
based on the dollars. So everyone, definitely hope you enjoyed this. Go check us out, Show versus Business. Go check out our web page. And yeah, anything else, Mr. Benja?
That's all I got, man. I may have to. I may have to order some Chardonnay, not some Chardonnay, get some Pinot Noir in
Yes,
here, and
yes.
sit back and rewatch another episode because, dude, the stuff that I'm missing in there. If you haven't taken the deep dive to all the names and connections, like Palpatine's right hands, the people you saw him with in the Senate chambers, their moves are actually in the show, but they're just referencing them. They're not explicitly bringing those characters out.
Oh man, it's
Really,
deep.
really weird and interesting stuff, man. Terribly, uh, terribly dense, but it's hard to tell when you're just watching it and leaning back. So lean into this show. That's all I got to say.
Lean in, brother. All right, man. Peace, Mr. Benja. Take care.
Peace, man.